What's up, guys? It's been a while since I've last spoken to you. A lot of things have happened. I've done a lot of thinking. I've thought about a lot of different things, and I'm here today just to share my thoughts and my newfound beliefs with you. So I wrote an essay explaining everything that I'm about to say. So I'm sorry if I'm not looking into the camera as much as I would like, since I haven't memorized all of this. I'll be reading off of this from time to time. I value your time, so I'll just get started, So, since the dawn of mankind, there has been this belief in the existence of a greater entity. Something so unfathomable to the regular human mind that it has been almost impossible to conceptualize, yet alone describe well enough to wrap your mind around. And over the course of human existence, many attempts have been made to explain this belief, to put it in a neat little box of words so we can integrate it into our lives and live better because of it. If we so choose, that's very important. Now, whenever we humans talk about something, we give it a certain word, a name, that's how language works, to make it easier for us to talk about it. And in Judaism, this big entity, they call it Yahweh, and Muslims refer to it as Allah, and Christians, when talking about this thing, they often call it the Lord. Now, there are other people out there who don't see this entity as something that could be described in similar ways as a human, so they just call it like the energy of the universe. But I, just like many others around this planet, I've chosen to refer to this entity as God, and I will continue to do so for the rest of this video, both to reflect my personal views, but also for the sake of simplicity and understanding. And I want to say this very clearly. I've decided to write my essay and make this video because of it. Not to impress any of you or to get anything out of it or force my beliefs on anybody out there, for that matter. But because I believe I've stumbled upon something very significant that speaks to our very existence itself and how our human society functions. And I hope that my upcoming words will inspire many thoughts and conversations about what our species is supposed to do on this planet. And even if I'm completely wrong about everything I'm about to say, I hope I will have engaged your mind enough for you to stop and analyze whether you and your actions are creating a net positive both for yourself and for society. So let's get started, right? So over the last few weeks and months, I've spent countless hours pondering over humanity, what we are doing versus what we should be doing, and how all of this, and with this I mean life, started to begin with and how it works. Those deep questions, huh? And I've come to the following conclusions. So, like the Bible, in the beginning there's God, and there's nothing else. And I would describe God as an infinitely powerful and all-knowing being that simply is everything. Joy, sadness, anger, fear, these emotions, and all the others too, these are all encompassed by God. And He's both the happiest you could ever be, but also the saddest you have ever been. And everything you could ever imagine, that's just part of God. And at a certain point in time, everything changed dramatically. So God, He shattered, got broken into an infinite amount of pieces, and these are spreading in all directions until the end of time. And there's nothing we can do about it. And at the time of writing this essay and making this video, I don't know whether this breaking up into different pieces was intentional or not, if it was induced by God Himself or if something else did that. But that is a question for another day. So I believe that this breaking of God is what scientists refer to as the Big Bang. And my current understanding is that they think that the Big Bang might be the beginning of the universe as we know it, and that all particles and matter come from this one singular event, which would mean that under my belief system, all these atoms are actually tiny pieces of God. Every atom, every molecule, that's just one little... Imagine you break like a piece of glass and you've got like millions of pieces all over the floor. Now imagine the glass was God, and then the atoms is the small glass bits. Like that's what I think. And now, since we are all made out of all of these atoms and molecules floating around in the universe around us, and we are made up of them, that means that the only logical conclusion is that a part of God is inside all of us. In me, in you, your mom, the neighbor that you hate, everybody is made up out of little pieces of God. Now, regardless of whether this initial breaking up of God was intentional or not, it seems to me that he wants to unite all of these pieces back together, like so he can be one again, like one big massive puzzle. And my evidence for this claim would be that all the atoms and molecules, they're constantly trying to be in a state that requires the least amount of energy, always finding the most efficient bonds available at the time. And if we zoom out from the micro to the macro, the same phenomenon appears. Nature always finds a state of harmony where the plants and animals can coexist, and if circumstances change, like, some big meteorite crashes into Earth, nature will adapt. It finds new solutions. Like it will always balance itself out, regardless of the conditions. So you will find this need to unite everywhere you look, even in humans. We seek out friendship and love, and we strive to get along, and without love and friendship, we fall apart and become miserable. It just doesn't work. Some atheists out there, I don't know the percentage, but they claim that evolution, as proposed by Charles Darwin, that it's a direct contradiction of the existence of God, but in my worldview, it's actually proof of his genius. I think that after some time, God figured out that atoms and molecules alone aren't going to be able to solve the problem of putting all the pieces back together, so he just created life to help him. It started off small with bacteria and single-cell organisms, but over time, it evolved into dinosaurs, birds, whales, and eventually us, humans. Now, because every atom is a part of God, and he was the driving force of the evolution process the whole time, every sense that we have, vision, hearing, smell, all those things, that all came from God to help us understand and navigate the world that he created. Even consciousness itself, this thing in your brain, that comes from God, and it is God. So we can make decisions to help further the goal of reuniting everything. Now, unfortunately, like many things in our life, all of these spectacular creations, they came at a cost. God can only be as effective as the tools he created to help himself. If you make a knife, but it sucks and it's dull, you won't be able to cut a lot of things very fast. So God has kind of trapped himself inside the human body and mind, both of which have their own problems. So as I said earlier, God is very powerful, and he's aware of that. Now, unfortunately, the human that he created to help him isn't able to handle all of that power. It's just too much. It would be constantly overwhelmed by the beauty and horrors of God's creations. Like, imagine the human body is a light bulb, and God is the electricity running through the wire. I'm sure, as you know, after some time, the wire just burns out and the light bulb doesn't work anymore. Now, that's what aging is. The power of God is running through our systems, and it's slowly deteriorating and destroying the container, which is why we all eventually die. Like, that's what aging is. So to solve some of this, he put filters into our senses so we would only perceive what is necessary for us to survive, function and work, and not constantly be distracted by what's going on around us. I've been doing some reading, and it turns out that people who take psychedelic drugs like mushrooms or LSD or countless others, they report that they see all these things that normally aren't there, and the lights are so much brighter and more beautiful. Things smell and taste better, and also the emotions are a lot more intense. They also say that they are a lot more in the moment than sober people. So based on what I've read about them, I would argue that these substances remove these filters that have been created by God to protect us, and if you take them, they let you fully appreciate what God created for us, while also giving the user a new perspective on things that they would otherwise never bother to question. Like, you grow up and you just see a car and just, yeah, that's a car, and then you take these drugs, and then, oh my God, a car! Like, it's just like this metal steel thing that's blowing up with combustions, and it's just moving across. Like apparently you start to question all of these things that you would never think about. But the big cost is, while you're on these drugs, apparently you're not able to do things like, I don't think it would be a lot of fun being at work and having to get shit done. It's probably very difficult. Now, on the mental side of things, God gave us a sense of self, free will, and an ego, so we can act on his behalf to hopefully help him complete his mission of reuniting. But why go through all of this? Well, good question, right? I mean, wouldn't it just be easier for God to take control of us like a pawn in a game of chess, or like a puppet? Well, even though there are way too many atoms inside of us to count, and they are all little pieces of God, I would say that it's not quite enough for God to exert direct control on us and our actions, which is why some of us not always act in his best interest, right? I mean, I'm sure you've met some terrible people. I don't think you would say that they are acting on behalf of God. And that's why I believe the importance of the ego comes in. The ego is Earth's counterpart to God's consciousness. And it has a bit of a mind of its own, which can lead both to good and bad outcomes. So the ego is the one who's actually in charge of your actions, and it is aware of the existence of God right beside it, together in the human body. So I think our challenge as humans is to keep a healthy balance between the two, because if you let God do all the actions, despite him aiming for the greater good and for this one big mission, you might end up losing your self-preservation instincts and just die early, because you pissed off too many people in aiming up and trying to help God, and caused just too much trouble for the egomaniacs, who in turn decided to get rid of you so they could continue pursuing their selfish and hedonistic goals, even though you, the kind-hearted person, you were only trying to help God and help him stop evil. On the other side, if you give too much control to the ego, it also gets bad. Because the ego is aware of God's existence and his power, so it becomes jealous and wants the same thing. So if you let your ego take the wheel all the time, you will either become delusional and self-destruct, thinking that you can handle anything with your power. One common manifestation of this being drug addiction, where the addict is repeatedly telling themselves, no, I don't have a problem, I don't have a problem, what are you talking about, I don't have a problem. And then they constantly increase the amount they take, which ruins their relationships, which only leads to more consumption, trying to hide the pain, until their entire life only revolves around the drug, and they either die like this, or eventually they wake up to their big fucking mistake and try and turn things around. And the other possibility is that the ego becomes power hungry, and you try to get as much of it as possible on earth, and you will do anything to protect it until you become a tyrannical dictator. I mean, just look at people like Hitler, Stalin, and Mao. Do you want to end up like that? So, to conclude all of this, I would define human life and the purpose of our existence as the eternal struggle of God trying to get all the pieces of him back together and be one again. And he requires our help to accomplish this, while trying to not fall prey to the power he has given to us in order to pursue this mission. Yeah, well, thank you very much for listening. I hope you could learn something from this, or I hope that I at least made you think things over, and well, I think my words speak for themselves. And well, I wish you a nice day. I wish you the best for your future. And speaking of future, more videos to come soon.